What up, what up? It's Garage Gym Homie, and today we're talking about step 3 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Is it worth it? Before we get into this here, please click the subscribe button. I got content coming out all the dang time for you. So click subscribe and let's get into this, man. We're not monkeying around. I am feeling great. I love talking about step 3, man, because we're talking about the power of God. I'm doing the whole series, man, steps 1 through 12 for now. Maybe in a year, I'll go back and do another 1 through 12 because there's so much here in this book. So let's talk about it, man. Hopefully I can break this down for some people that haven't heard it in this way and bring value to your life, man. That's what content creation's about. So this step here is everything. And when I'm done, you're going to understand what I mean by that. It's everything. At this step is when I recovered from alcoholism. I recovered. I'm going to talk about what that means. So we were in, if you haven't seen the video, I've done steps 1 and last week I did step 2. We are on page, I got the big book, man, the real big book, the big book. We're in How It Works on page 60. And we went through A, B, and C, and if you're convinced of that, it says we were at step 3. That's how quick 1 and 2 went, as I spoke about in the videos previously, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Self-will. So what does that mean, to turn my will and my life over to God as we understood Him? What does that mean? Because I didn't come in AA with any relationship with God. I was willing to do whatever it takes, and I was ready to be done for good. And they said, hey man, this is what you do. And I didn't have any more arguing or fight in me about it. So how do I turn my will and my life over to God? We're going to talk about that, man. This is good stuff right here because it's going to be very simple. If you read deeper in the book, so you can look at the AA, we just call that A, you know, they list the 12 steps out in here. And I used to go to rehabs and I'd see all the 12 steps written on the wall. I've been to 20 rehabs. And I would look at those steps and think I knew what they meant. Now I call that AA off the wall because I'm not able to look at those steps and know what they mean without digging in this book. So this book has the clear-cut, precise directions on how to recover. So I recovered. So what does that mean? That means that God removed my obsession to drink and get high. That means there are no triggers. That means that I'm safe to go anywhere that I want to go as long as I have a purpose to be there. I don't have to avoid triggers or worried that I'm going to see alcohol or some old friend somewhere and I'm just going to have to, oh, I'm triggered, I got to get in his car and get high. It's like, that's treatment center talk, man, triggers. That's not real AA. So that's the message of hope for you, man, that this does not have to be a lifelong struggle to stay sober. I said that, so let's talk about it, man. Let's talk. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, man. So look, on page 63, there's a prayer in here. It says, we were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood Him. So we come up with our own concept of God as long as it's bigger than the AA meetings or the doorknob or all that nonsense you hear. You know, it's got to be something I can rely on that's always there. God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. So that's a prayer, and it says right after the prayer. The third step is a prayer. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to Him. So we don't say this prayer until we're ready. So when I sponsor somebody, I tell them, I say, okay, we went through A, B, and C on page 60. Now I want you to read the 2 pages up to the prayer. And I want you to take out a pen and paper and I want you to write down the prayer in your own words. You can either keep it the exact same, or you can write it in words that you understand. Like, God, I offer myself to thee. I wrote, God, I offer myself to you. You know, to build with me and to do with me as you will. You know, words that I understood and I thought well before taking this step. Now I'm going to break it down so you understand what this is. This step is a contract with God that we're going to do the rest of the steps at once, the book says. At once means immediately. So that means, so that's all the third step is. That's how you turn your will and life over to God, by fulfilling the contract. That's all the third step is. It's a contract I'm making with God, with my higher power, that I'm going to go and follow through and do the rest of the steps at once. And I'm going to show you in here where it says that. How simple is that? See, a lot of you don't know. How do I turn my will and my life? That's so overwhelming. It's just a contract that we're making to do the rest of the steps. That's how you turn your will and your life over to the care of God, by fulfilling the contract. So that means that every second I wait between the third step and starting the fourth step and finishing the fourth step, going on to the next step, I'm giving my disease a chance to creep in there and kill me. Every minute that I wait, my disease says, hey man, take your time. You don't have to do that fourth step right away, man. Take your time. The disease, the head, doesn't want you to fulfill the contract. It doesn't want you to move on at once, like the book says, to the rest of the steps. So notice it did not say the word amen after the prayer. See, there's a meaning for everything in here. Amen finalizes a prayer. Amen. They didn't write amen in here because the prayer's open. Now God carries us through the rest. How amazing is that? See, a lot of people don't know. They don't realize why it doesn't say amen. So man, I was 2 weeks sober and I met my sponsor at the synagogue. And there's two ways to say a prayer, man. There's from the head and there's from the heart. I said that prayer from the deepest place in my heart, man. And I walked out of that synagogue 10 years ago almost going on 10 years, 2 weeks after I got sober. I never had a thought or feeling to drink or get high since then, man. God lifted my obsession like that. I had what they call in the book a white lightning experience. Now it's important to know, not everybody has that experience. Sometimes they don't recover till later where God removes it. But the book promises that it will happen if you fulfill your contract and you keep moving on. I used to be one of those people that said, I used to go to meetings and talk out of the side of my neck and say things like, yeah, I did step 1, 2, and 3. I just never did 4 and the rest. No. If I didn't do 4 or 5 or 6, I never did step 3 because I didn't fulfill my contract. See, now you know. Step 3 is everything. Because from now on, if I'm not doing the rest of these steps at once like the book says, I'm not fulfilling I'm not doing step 3. I didn't really have step 3. I never had step 3. So it says here, just so you know, I didn't come up with this in my head. It said, we thought well before taking the steps, it was let us abandon ourselves utterly to him. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our friend, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it's better to meet God alone with one who might misunderstand. The wording, just like I said, was of course quite optional, so long as we express the idea of voicing it without reservation. So that means that I can write it in my own words and make it my third step prayer. It's the prayer. It's not a working step. It's a prayer. It's a contract to fulfill the rest of the steps at once. Not just to do the rest of the steps, at once. And I'm going to read that to you. So I make it mine. I say the third step prayer every morning. You make it your prayer. You say it as often as you want. It says, next we launched out on a course of vigorous action The first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. See, I'm feeling the power of God right now talking about this. If you're talking about stuff that you're passionate and you're not feeling it, there's something missing, man. I am fired up right now. Listen to this, man. I point this out to all of the people that I sponsor, because if they don't recover and they end up getting a new sponsor later, I will not allow them to go to that sponsor without saying, yep, Ari showed me that. I have to hold my people to the book. That's the job of a good sponsor, man, to hold you to the book. Though our decision, the third step was a decision, was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once, followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. It's saying, I can feel this power of God flow through me when I say the words of the third step prayer from my heart. But I cannot hold on to that power. It'll have little permanent effect unless at once followed by the fourth step. Unless at once. The people who I see who do well in this program, who recover, take this contract seriously. They get moving immediately from step 3 right to step 4, because every minute you wait to start that inventory, your head says, hey man, easy does it. One day at a time. Take your time. All the one-liners come up. And then you talk yourself out of doing step 4 at once, and then they go back out. I've sponsored hundreds of addicts and alcoholics. Very few people I've gotten to see recover. I've gotten to see a good amount recover, thank God. But the people who recover are the people who move on immediately to do step 4. And the people who relapse, maybe I'm lucky enough that they come back and I say, hey man, what happened? And they might know, they might not know, but they didn't stick to the contract. That's what always it's the same story over and over. They say the third step prayer. I don't hear from them for a long time. They never started the inventory. The disease told them they don't need to do this inventory. The resentment, the fear, all that stuff takes over. They never stick to their contract. They go back out. Maybe they come back, stick to their contract. Maybe they have more of a sense of urgency next time. But this is a contract. So anytime, even now in my life, if I'm not doing these steps, the 10th step, 11th step, 12th, I'm not fulfilling my contract with God. I don't know about you. I take contracts seriously, but especially, I've broken a lot of contracts in my life. But I'm not going to monkey around with a contract with God. That I will not play with. So I don't know about you. I hope you're fired up. So that's what I got, man. Hopefully that helped. The third step, it's just a prayer. And that prayer is a contract to move on with the rest of the steps immediately. Don't let your disease talk you out of sticking to your contract, man. That's how you recover, by sticking to the contract. That's what I got. God bless all of you. Together, let's get this dang muscle. I'm out.